Imagine the heart of an empire, the king, his family, the bishops, the judges, every lord and member of parliament, all gathered in one room. The entire structure of English government, from its highest peak to its lowest foundation, assembled in a single place. Now, imagine directly beneath their feet, in a dark, forgotten cellar, a mountain of gunpowder, 36 barrels, enough to obliterate the building, the people within it, and reshape the very skyline of London. This isn't fiction. This was the terrifying reality on the eve of November 5, 1605. A single, silent bomb, ticking away under a nation's elite who sat completely unaware that they were perched on the edge of annihilation. This apocalyptic vision wasn't born in a vacuum. It was the brainchild of one man, Robert Catesby. To understand the gunpowder plot, you must understand him. Catesby was a devout Catholic, a charismatic and wealthy gentleman who had watched his world crumble. For years, he and his fellow Catholics had suffered under intense persecution. Their faith was outlawed, their priests hunted, their property seized. Hopes that the new king, James I, would bring tolerance were brutally crushed. For Catesby, patience had run out. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about a reset, a violent, divine cleansing. He didn't want to just kill the king, he wanted to erase the entire Protestant establishment in a single, fiery blast, creating a power vacuum that a Catholic monarch could fill. His plan was total, absolute, and terrifyingly simple. Cut the head off the snake, and the body will fall. But a plan this audacious requires a specialist. Catesby was the visionary, the leader, the recruiter. But he was not the man who would light the fuse. For that he needed an expert, someone with nerves of steel and a deep knowledge of explosives. He found his man in a soldier fighting abroad, a quiet, hardened mercenary from York named Guy Fawkes, or, as we know him, Guy Fawkes was not the mastermind. He was the technician, a professional soldier. He had spent years fighting in the Spanish Wars, gaining a reputation for his cool-headedness and his expertise in siege warfare and demolitions. He was a man of action, not words. Driven by a fervent Catholic faith and a soldier's unwavering commitment to the mission, he returned to England not as a plotter in the traditional sense, but as the hired hand for a single critical task. He was the one who would descend into the darkness and wait for the signal. He was the trigger. The logistics of the plot were a masterpiece of patience and deception. Catesby's first plan was brutally straightforward. The plotters rented a house adjacent to the Parliament building and, for months, engaged in the back-breaking secret work of tunneling through the stone foundation walls, hoping to dig a mine directly under the House of Lords. The work was slow, agonizing, and dangerous. Every sound was a risk, every shovelful of earth a potential giveaway. They were gentlemen, not miners, and the physical toll was immense. Then, a stroke of luck that must have felt like divine intervention. The cellar directly beneath the House of Lords, the very space they were trying to reach, became available for rent. The original tenant had died. It was perfect. They abandoned the tunnel immediately. Under the guise of storing firewood and coal for the winter, Catesby's cousin, Thomas Percy, a man with connections at court, easily secured the lease. The stage was set now. The most critical phase began. 36 barrels of gunpowder, over a ton of explosive material, under the cover of darkness, night after night, the barrels were secretly rowed across the River Thames. They were moved cautiously, silently, into the newly acquired cellar, covered with piles of wood and coal. This colossal instrument of destruction lay hidden in plain sight, just feet below the very throne of England. For months, it sat there. Parliament's opening was delayed several times, stretching the nerves of the plotters to their absolute breaking point. Each delay meant more time for discovery, more time for a loose word to unravel everything. They had to maintain their cover, go about their lives, all while knowing that a sea of black powder waited in the darkness below Westminster. The scale of the hidden threat was immense, a secret known only to a handful of men, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash hell. The night of November 4th arrives. The city of London sleeps. The final preparations are complete. Parliament will open in the morning. Inside the cold, damp cellar, a lone figure keeps watch. It's Guy Fawkes. He is surrounded by the 36 barrels, the tools of his trade laid out beside him, a slow-burning fuse and a lantern. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth, gunpowder, and the chilling finality of the moment. Above him, all is silent. The politicians, the royals, the judges, they are all in their beds, dreaming of the pomp and ceremony to come. They have no idea that their entire world is about to be violently unmade by the man sitting alone in the darkness below. Fawkes isn't the leader, but in this moment, he is everything. He is the guardian of the apocalypse. His isolation is absolute. The fate of a nation rests on his shoulders, on the simple, solitary act of touching a flame to a fuse. He waits. All he has to do is wait for the signal, and history will be rewritten in fire and blood. Thank you so much for watching. This is only the beginning of this incredible story. It all came down to a single letter. A cryptic, anonymous warning sent to Lord Monteagle, begging him to stay away from Parliament on the 5th of November. It was an act of compassion, a fatal flaw in a flawless plan. They wanted to save one man, but in doing so they damned them all. Monteagle, confused and alarmed, didn't hesitate. He took the letter straight to the king's spymaster, Robert Cecil, who in turn presented it to King James I. At first, the king was baffled by the strange message. They shall receive a terrible blow with this parliament, and yet they shall not see who hurts them. But as the words were read and reread, a chilling suspicion began to form, a blow unseen. Something from below. The king, whose own father had been killed in an explosion, immediately understood the implication. He gave the order. Search the cellars beneath the Houses of Parliament. The first search, conducted in the afternoon, revealed little, just a large pile of firewood in a cellar rented by a man named Thomas Percy, guarded by his servant, John Johnson. The guards reported this back, but the king remained uneasy. The sheer volume of firewood seemed excessive. He commanded a second, more thorough search, to be carried out after midnight. Imagine the scene. The dead of night. A small party of guards, led by Sir Thomas Knivett, descends once more into the labyrinth of tunnels beneath Westminster. Their lanterns cast long, dancing shadows on the cold stone walls. The air is thick with the smell of damp earth and something else, something acrid. They approach the same cellar, the one stacked high with wood, and there he is again. The same man, John Johnson, dressed for travel, boots on, spurs attached. He looks up, surprised by their return. This time the guards don't just look at the firewood, they begin to move it, and beneath the logs, their hands find not stone, but the rough, curved wood of barrels. One after another, 36 barrels in total. Enough gunpowder to obliterate the entire building and everyone in it. The guards turn to the lone man, their faces grim. They search him, and in his pocket they find it. The final, terrifying piece of the puzzle. A slow match, tinder, and a watch to time the explosion. The man they know as John Johnson is, of course, Guy Fawkes. The game is up. Dragged from the cellars and into the presence of the king, Fawkes was defiant. He was not John Johnson. He was Guy Fawkes, a soldier, and he regretted nothing except his failure. He showed no remorse, no fear. He was a man of iron will, convinced of the righteousness of his cause. This unshakable resolve impressed even the king, who remarked that Fawkes possessed a Roman resolution. But that resolve was about to be tested in the darkest chambers of the Tower of London. King James authorized the use of torture, not just as punishment, but to extract the names of his fellow conspirators. Fawkes was subjected to the manacles, a form of torment designed to dislocate the joints. But he remained silent. So, they escalated. They brought him to the rack. This infamous device was designed for one purpose: to inflict unimaginable agony by stretching a person's body until their limbs were pulled from their sockets. We don't know exactly how many days he endured it, but the physical and psychological toll was immense. The man of iron was broken. The proof lies in his confessions. The first, taken before the worst of the torture, bears a signature that is clear and firm, Guido Fawkes. But the second, taken after his ordeal on the rack, tells a different story. The signature is barely a scroll. It's a ghost of a name, shaky, weak, the final testament of a man whose body and spirit had been shattered. He gave them everything. The names, the details, the entire web of the conspiracy. With the plot fully exposed, the fate of the conspirators was sealed. Those who hadn't been killed while resisting arrest were rounded up, tried for high treason, and sentenced to the most brutal punishment the law allowed: to be hanged, drawn, and quartered. In January 1606, in a series of public spectacles, Guy Fawkes and his fellow plotters met their gruesome end. They were made an example of, a horrific warning against any who would dare challenge the crown. But the story doesn't end with their deaths. The immediate aftermath was one of national relief and celebration. People across London lit bonfires, church bells rang, and sermons of thanks were preached. The nation had been delivered from a terrible fate. In the years that followed, this spontaneous celebration was formalized. Parliament passed an act, the observance of the 5th of November Act, making the day an annual public holiday of Thanksgiving. And so, Bonfire Night was born, a night of fireworks, effigies, and flames. It's a profound paradox. An act of terror, a plot born of desperation and religious fury, failed and became the catalyst for a national festival every year. For over 400 years, the nation has reenacted the discovery of the plot. The guy thrown on the fire is a direct effigy of Guy Fawkes, the man who almost brought Parliament to ruin. It's a ritual of remembrance, a perpetual reminder not of the plotters' cause, but of their failure, and of the nation's deliverance. The smoke that fills the autumn sky each November 5th is an echo of the explosion that never was, a celebration born from the ashes of a failed revolution. Thank you so much for watching this two-part series on the Gunpowder plot. It's a fascinating and complex moment in history, and I hope you found it as intriguing as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into the past. We'll see you next time.